Hi besties, welcome back. So today we are going to be doing another wrap up, and January was a little insane because I definitely did not think I was going to read 10 books, but indeed I did. This month is one of the only months where I've read an equal amount of physical books and audiobooks, which is kind of wild because audiobooks take me a while to get through because I usually just listen to them in the mornings on my walks. But there is one audiobook that I flew through, so we'll talk about that as well. Let's start the app because there are actually multiple 5-star books in this video. Starting off with Iron Flame because I wanted to read it before Onyx Storm came out so I could run to the bookshop and pick up Onyx Storm, which I did, but this book indeed did destroy me. It was 5 stars, I didn't doubt that. But so many people said that they didn't love this as much as Fourth Wing, and I get that, I see where they're coming from, but I loved it. It destroyed me, like physically destroyed me, because like what the heck was the ending of this book? Someone please tell me. I was holding my breath in anticipation of what was gonna happen next. Like I think the last 50 pages, I had to keep reminding myself to breathe, because I would not breathe, and then I'd be like, oh my god, there's just too much going on. I'm not going to tell you what this one is about because it is the second book in a series, but I can just tell you that this did indeed live up to the hype, and it just solidifies my fear of reading Fourth Wing books because there's just so much crazy shit that goes on. I can't like contain myself and I can't control myself, which is why I put off Onyx Storm. I haven't read it yet, but I have it in my possession. Malibu Rising was indeed a 5 out of 5 stars because what Taylor Jenkins Reid book have I read that hasn't been a 5 out of 5 stars? Carrie Soto. That was the only one. I blew through this audiobook kind of on purpose, kind of not on purpose, because it's the end of January and my boyfriend's like, you could make it to 10 books this month. And I'm like, in my head I was like, I guess I could if I finish this audiobook, but I'm like, I'm not gonna force myself. If it's good, then I'll keep going. If it's not, then I just won't read 10 books this month. The way that I flew through this audiobook in like 2 days, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. It is my second 5-star book of the month and my second 5-star audiobook ever. And I do fear that I need a physical copy because this book made me feel so deeply. This story was probably the saddest book I've read by Taylor Jenkins Reid in terms of what happens to the characters. Nina Riva is probably one of my most favorite characters to ever exist, ever. And I just have so much empathy for her. Like it made me so sad. It made me so incredibly sad. The book has a lot in it and a lot of emotional depth, so I'm not gonna like get into the details, into the nitty-gritty, but I will tell you what it like basically is about. And it follows 4 very famous siblings and they throw a huge party in Malibu every year. This is kind of what threw me off of the book because I was like, I don't want to read about like famous people throwing a party. Like no, it is so much more than that. And the story flashes back to when their parents first met, to their childhood, to all of the rough times that they had to go through during their childhood and their upbringing, and then kind of back to the present, and you kind of see the result of what happened. So oh my god, it is just so good. I will die on the hill that Taylor Jenkins Reid just knows how to write a good story. I finally got around to reading the Love Elixir of Agusta Stern, and this was on my 10 before the end, but here we are reading it in January. But I'm so glad I read this because this was so cute. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting like tomfoolery and shenanigans in a retirement home in Florida. That's not what I got. I got a much deeper story out of this because when I picked it up from Book of the Month, I was drawn because it said it was about a love story between 2 seniors in a retirement home. And I was like, I will indeed eat this up. I did, but it was a lot different than what I was expecting. This was a 4 out of 5 stars. Agusta is unfortunately forced into retirement. She is a pharmacist and the hospital she's working at is like, you're getting a little too old. We're gonna let you go. And she's like, oh. So she's basically forced into retirement, and her niece finds her a retirement community in Florida, and she's like, this will be so good for you. So she ends up packing up her life in New York and moving to this retirement community in Florida where she runs into her old friend slash like first love. She runs into Irvine, and that was like, he was her first love, and then it kind of flashes back into their childhood, them growing up, what happened between them, and it will like flash forward to how she's always annoyed with him, and he's like such this cute little like, he warms my heart old man, and he's like trying to get along with her, and she's like, don't talk to me, like go away. And it kind of just, it goes from there. She also, like, there's another one of her friends from her past who is also in this retirement community, and all three of them have like Irvine has beef with like the other friend, and Augusta's like, why do you hate him so much? There's just a lot going on, but it was so fun. I don't tend to love contemporary fiction. Like, it's just very hit or miss for me, and I think I've mentioned that before, but this was one of like the really good ones that I've thoroughly enjoyed. A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne is a 4.5 stars out of 5. High ass rating for an audiobook, but I loved it so much. Oh my gosh, in my opinion, it is so much better than the first one, which is You Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. And I was literally like laughing and giggling and kicking my feet out of pure happiness of what was going on. I love how one of the newer characters that were introduced in this book, she stress crochets. So she's like stressed and she's crocheting, and she like, when she's done, she gives it to other people. Like, she gives her like crocheted things to other people, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fun. Because of this series, cozy fantasies have become one of my favorite like subgenres, I guess, of reading, and hence the spell shop displayed proudly right here, because I'm so excited to read that, because Rebecca Thorne does have like a little quotey quote on the front, so I'm like, okay, if this is anything like her books, I think I'm gonna love it. Keith and Raina have easily become like two of my favorite characters ever on my list of favorite characters ever. They're just so fun, and the way that Camp just gets so excited for like literally anything in this book. She loves all the crocheted items. She like has 5 hats from Bobby. Bobby's the one who like crochets. She's like, I want those. I want like the little stuffies that you make. Like, she's getting so excited. And then how she's writing, like randomly writing a book, and she starts shipping like Bobby and the pirate in the book. She's like, you guys would be great together. And Bobby's like, can we calm down, please? So even though this is the second book in a series, I feel like it's somewhat separated from the first one, so I can tell you what it's about. So Keith and Raina, who are originally from the first book, they are also in this book. They have like a goal. They're on an adventure. They get a little sidetracked because Bobby is a constable, and they meet up with her. There's some politics in the beginning, which I can't remember, but like they end up teaming up with Bobby because they're like, there's a pirate who is raiding our area. They're taking our resources, our food, our hay, our like all the stuff you would need to survive. And they're raiding farms. Like, we need to catch this pirate. And Keith and Raina are like, sure, okay, we're on it. So they go to track down this pirate, and they're going on a huge adventure. And then they finally meet the pirate, who is Serena. And they're like, wait, there's actually a lot more to the story than we were told. I think like there's something bigger is going on than just Serena stealing food and being labeled as a pirate. Oh my god, it is so good. It's so good. Please just read it. Besties, we finally got to Throne of Glass this month. Yay! I rated this a 4.75, the same as Assassin's Blade. I loved it. Like, oh my gosh. And I didn't think I would love it as much as I would, which is so weird because I loved Assassin's Blade. So I was like, I don't know why I didn't think I would not love this as much as I did. I was not a huge fan of the love triangle, nor was I expecting a love triangle. So when I'm blindsided by a love triangle, I'm kind of like, But that was like the only thing I didn't love about the book. This scene right here, the cover of this book, chapter 24, I don't know why it intrigues me so much, but like when everything was happening in that chapter, there's not even action in that chapter. Like, it's more of like her adventuring somewhere. Obsessed. Like, I don't know why that sticks out in my brain so much, but I was flabbergasted when I was reading that whole thing. I have chapter 24 tabbed in a different color than all of my tabs because I just wrote, this whole chapter is amazing. I think I want to like draw here this. Like, I want this here. So we'll see if I ever get to that, but it is a goal of mine. I'm not going to tell you what this one is about because it is part of a series, and like the reading order, you can do it in so many ways. But I will say, if you are considering starting the series, just do it because it is so fun. Oh my gosh, The Third Gilmore by Kelly Bishop. I don't rate memoirs because you're like rating someone's life experiences. I have been obsessed with Gilmore Girls for like who knows how long. It's like a foundational part of my childhood, and who I am is based off of Gilmore Girls. The thing that drew me to this book so much is that Kelly narrates it, and the way that when she started narrating it, I started like getting emotional and tearing up, because I was like, the nostalgia of her voice and just like hearing it, I don't know, literally just thinking about it now is making me emotional, and I don't know why. Like, oh my god, my period's coming soon, okay? Like, it makes sense. Listening to Kelly's story and like how there was so much more of her career before Gilmore Girls and Dirty Dancing, I was like, this is wild, because I didn't know how much of an accomplished career she had, and I was like, oh my gosh, she did so much. She starts talking about Gilmore Girls maybe 60% of the way through the book, which I wasn't expecting. Gilmore Girls was a big part of her life, but it wasn't the majority of her life, if that makes sense. Gilmore Girls was only 7 seasons when you think about it, and that's only 7 years of her life compared to like everything else that she did. So moral of the story is that I loved this book so much, and I would listen to it again. Another book I got for Christmas was The Adventures of Amina Serafi. 4.5 stars. I was so highly anticipating this book. The beginning let me down just a little bit, because it was, to me, it was really slow and there wasn't much going on. Like, there was stuff going on, just not like the pirate adventure stuff that I was anticipating that would go along with a book like this. But let me say, when it started to get good, it got good. Like, the back half of this was what I wanted throughout the whole thing. And I know that this is a series, so hopefully the next 2 books, like, this was just a setup for the next 2 books being as great as the last 50% of what this was, because the last 50% was amazing. The mythical creatures, the different lands they went to, the action and adventure, like, it was also incredible, and it's what I wanted. But again, it was only in the last like 50% of the book. Like, the plot, so unique. I've never read any fantasy story like this. So basically, Amina is a retired pirate, and she retired because she's like, I'm a mom now. I'm not in that line of work anymore. But one of her old crewmates' mothers tracks her down, and she's like, my son was on your crew. I need your help. My granddaughter was kidnapped, and she is my world. She is my everything. I need to get her back, and I need your help. And Amina kind of feels indebted to this mother because her son died on her crew. So while her son was working for Amina, he died or passed away. So she's like, I feel so indebted. Like, I need to find this woman's granddaughter, like a pull, like an honor thing. So she's super hesitant to accept, because that means leaving her daughter. But she's like, no, like, if my daughter was kidnapped, I would want help to find her. So she ends up accepting this deal and going to try and find the granddaughter. This turns out to be a lot bigger of a mission and a lot more dangerous than she anticipated. So she ends up going and recruiting her old crew to come back and help her try and find this girl. There's just so many good things about this book that made me forget about the first 50% of it, which is why I rated it so high. So next we have our first Kindle book that I finished, which is an ARC review of Misbooked for Love. I got this and I was a beta reader. I would say this story is very atmospheric for like what you want. So it's like a romance atmospheric book. I can't say that word. Oh my gosh. And that is like one of the things I really loved about it. I would rate this probably like a 3-star, just because it was a novella and it's shorter than 200 pages, which is insane to fit a whole romance story into less than 200 pages, which is why I think it fell a little flat for me, because everything kind of just seemed so rushed and it felt so fast that I was like, this doesn't seem like super believable. But honestly, like, if you wanted something short and sweet and you wanted to feel accomplished for reading something, this would do it. This would absolutely do it. I blew through this. This is basically about Tom and Clara, and they're 2 completely different strangers. They book a hotel suite for Valentine's Day. Clara books it because she just wants to get away from like her old life. Her ex-boyfriend he dumped her, so she's like, I'm going away by myself. And Tom was going to take his daughter, but she ends up being snowed in New York, and he flew in from somewhere else, so it was just him. And the hotel double booked the hotel suite, so it ended up Clara and Tom had to share like this hotel suite, and they were really upset about it, rightfully so, because they didn't have a great first impression when they met in like the hallway. but they have to share a space, and it kind of just, it goes from there. The Stranger in the Lifeboat by Mitch Albom. I've read one of his other books before, and that has been Tuesdays with Morrie. It is my mom's favorite book, so when I saw his name pop up on like the Libby app, I was like, yes, I will read another one of his books. Didn't love it as much as Tuesdays with Morrie. I'd probably give this book like a 2.5 out of 5 stars, and I think that is purely because I wasn't expecting the somewhat of religious aspect to the book. This book follows 2 timelines. So one timeline is about these people on a lifeboat because the cruise ship that they were on sunk. From what we know, they're the only survivors on this life raft, and it kind of just follows the life raft and the people on the life raft, and then it flash forwards into the future where some man finds an empty life raft that washes up on shore, and the police chief is going around trying to figure out what the heck is going on because this cruise ship sank like I think a couple years ago. So the police storyline is in the future and the life raft storyline is in the past. These people on the life raft, the religious part of this is that they pull a man into the life raft and he claims to be the Lord or like God. It wasn't for me. I think I prefer Tuesdays with Morrie. Iron Widow I got gifted for Christmas, and this is so exciting because now I'm getting into like all the books that I read that I got for Christmas. But I am so stuck with what to rate this. It's between a 2.5 and a 3, and I need to say that my rating is purely based on my confusion reading this book. It's probably so much better than a 2.5 or a 3, and I know that so many people love it. I was just so confused the whole time, and like sometimes I feel like science fiction just like whew, goes over my head sort of thing, and I really wanted to like it, but my confusion just got in the way of that. I feel like they jumped into the world so fast, and like the world building just wasn't there at the beginning for me. So as they kept going, I kept on getting more and more confused. I thought the villains of this story were humans, but they're robots. So you can see my confusion getting like 3/4 in and realizing that they're not humans, and I'm like, this actually makes so much more sense now. One of my fatal flaws is that if I am confused or don't understand, I will not say a word. I will keep going and I will keep pretending like I understand until something either clicks and I do understand, or I crumble and fall and cry. And this is why I've almost failed math like multiple times. I don't think I fully understand what this is about, and I will not do this book justice whatsoever. But what I can tell you is that it's somewhat of a futuristic retelling of the first empress, or like the only empress China has ever had. So do with that what you will. Hopefully, I'm not trying to deter anyone from reading it because I think I am going to reread it. Like, I'm really curious to see how I feel about this book after I reread it and understand what is going on. Alright besties, those are all the books I read in the month of January. I had an amazing reading month. So many good books. I am so content with this month. Like, I know that January is one of like the sadder months because it's so gloomy and it's never sunny and it's cold and there's snow, but like, oh my god, I had a great month thanks to my bookies. So thank you guys so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in next week's video. Bye guys.